I very, very briefly had Nebraska in the final. And I was like, I don't trust that. Indiana winning the national football championship and Nebraska winning the national basketball championship in the same year would have been hilarious.
It'd been like 1979, but
reversed.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Howdy, it's Thursday, March 19th, 2026, and this is episode 275 of Due for a Win, the Atlantic City podcast. I'm Kyle Askin, joined, as always, by Craig Stone. What's good, Craig?
March Madness. Am I allowed to say March Madness?
I believe that we have just been sued. I'm getting by email. The email's just come in.
The cease and desist is in the mail.
Just like our infamous Sandstorm episodes.
Yes, correct.
Or Vegas tripping when AC/DC sent them a cease and desist.
Awesome.
Good times.
Best. Anyways, nobody remembers that.
The true fans do.
So, first day of the NCAA tournament.
And instead of watching the game, I'm here with you.
That's true. We were going to record tomorrow, but I was like, no, let's mess up the first day of the NCAA tournament. But
that's fine.
I have a very relevant would you rather.
But not the one you mentioned last episode, which you said was the would you rather to end all would you rathers.
Correct. No, not that. Mm-hmm. Would you rather go to AC for the first weekend of the NCAA tournament or the NFL divisional round weekend?
I don't know if I need to do either, honestly.
But you have to pick one.
I got you, but you have to let me rev up for a little bit. You can't just...
I thought we wanted a 10-minute episode. Let's go.
You have to ease into it, Craig. Come on. The first weekend of the NCAA tournament is truly the most amazing weekend of the sports year, I think. Truly the greatest event that there is just the first weekend of the NCAA tournament. But, I'd rather, frankly, be at someone's house all day or whatever, just, watching on 4 screens. Or, I don't want to sit in a sports book all day. What am I going to do there? Or we'll go to AC and, I'll be at the blackjack table, and I guess it'll be fine. But is it really better than any other weekend I could be in AC? I don't know. What's your take?
So, of these two, I'm clearly picking the NCAA tournament. For one, I think I prefer that day just for my sheer excitement. If you're going to be in a place with a bunch of screens, like a sports book in Atlantic City, NCAA tournament has the advantage that there are 16 games in a day, right? That's a ton of games. So the NFL divisional round, none of them overlap, right? You're only watching one game at a time.
It's one game at a time, correct.
So I don't need to be at a sports book for that. I guess the NFL divisional round has the advantage that I just care less. So I can screw off over to video poker, run over and play some sixes or better for a little bit, which is more exciting than the NFL. I would actually throw out there also another good day to be at the sportsbook would be during the wild card round for baseball, which I know you have no interest in.
This is truly zero.
I have a couple follow-ups. Does your interest level change at all if it's a big group of people? Like if we got 8 friends there who are all excited to watch some basketball.
For me, the thing that makes my interest level change the most about this is that I'd be excited to do AC or Vegas with my friends anytime. And if it gets them up into one of these places, I'm all for it, 100%.
Yeah, it's good as an excuse.
You know that regardless if people are going to AC or Vegas, I'm going to be there, right? So, right. I mean, unless I can't be, in which case I can't be there. But
does your answer change if it's Vegas and not AC in either direction?
Not really. I mean, like I said, would I sit in the sportsbook and watch some of the games? 100% I would. I think it would be a reasonable amount of fun or whatever, but I just don't want to do that for 12 hours a day.
Yeah.
Because the games start at noon and they end at midnight.
Out of all of this, I think I would pick the baseball wild card.
That's fine.
For a couple of reasons.
I feel like we were there during the wild card pretty recently in the last year or two.
But I think the reason that I would pick the MLB wild card, or the reasons plural, are that, one, it's a more chill, until you get to the 8th or 9th inning when it's really intense. It's a more chill sport to just be sitting there playing some video poker at the sports bar as you look up and see what's going on in the games.
Mm-hmm.
And 2, it's much easier to get a seat at the sports book. Right? It's not going to be nearly as crazy.
Because no one cares, right?
Dave, our friend Dave, has a few times suggested going to either AC or Vegas during the first weekend of the tournament. And the thought of it, I actually am always I don't really want to do that. I think that weekend is actually a negative for me versus a normal weekend. I think you're saying pretty much the same thing too.
Right.
And I know there are other podcasts where a bunch of people...
No, I think the people love this, right?
Oh, yeah, people
In
absolutely...
general.
Like, there are a lot of people who go to Vegas every year for the first weekend of the tournament.
Or for the Super Bowl or
Yeah.
whatever. People love to go to Vegas every year for the Super Bowl.
But for as rarely as I get to Vegas, I absolutely would not sit in a sports book. I don't think I would watch a single game in Vegas for any of these, because I would be out doing other stuff that I want to do in Vegas that is not sitting in a sports book watching these events, especially a super crowded sports book during NCAA or NFL playoffs. So I think my interest is actually higher for AC than for Vegas, just because I get to AC more often. I wouldn't feel like I'm missing out by hanging out in a sports book for most of a day watching NCAA tournament games. But yeah, I'd generally rather just go some other weekend.
No, I don't disagree. I think the NFL would be like a bit more of a sensible pace, but with the caveat that I don't want to be around people if the Ravens are playing, and, you know, my hope is that we don't miss the playoffs too many times. So
Yeah, is there anything worse also than when you're sitting there watching some event that you really care about the outcome?
truly not.
And there's a bunch of people around you who, A, are rooting for the other team, or don't care at all and are, you know, being obnoxious in other ways, such as, you know, their families or the olds or bros. Or it's your kids.
My children screaming about something in the house when I'm watching something I really care about. Yes, I'm familiar.
Or your children are watching intently with you, but they have literally 1 million questions about it, and you're just trying to watch the game.
No, that doesn't happen. Usually they're just talking about Roblox or something, and I'm just like, oh god.
That's that. So you picked NFL out of these two?
I guess so, but I mean, I would go to AC or Vegas anytime for any reason. So,
But for purposes of this,
I wouldn't expect to be sitting at the sports book for 12 hours in either location.
NFL does have the advantage that since it is only one game at a time, you can probably just be anywhere in the casino and
Right,
see
and
the
watching
game.
it.
Yeah,
You actually need
that's
to be in
true.
the sports book because there's 4 games going on at the same time on the first 2 days of the NCAA tournament.
That's true. I think it would be cool to do the NCAA tournament in AC
Yeah, I'm all for it.
at Ocean Sportsbook or Borgata Sportsbook.
We were there in the Sweet 16 last year when Maryland lost, I remember. We watched that, and then you left with like 10 minutes to go when it was clear what was happening.
I don't even remember that.
Yeah, it was the Sweet 16 game when they lost to Florida. We were in the casino, yes.
I did spitefully pick against Villanova this year because of Kevin Willard, so, you know.
Yeah, I also did that. You had to.
So, in old news, which will be really old news by the time this episode gets posted.
Not to be confused with Old's news.
Yes, correct. The St. Patrick's Day Parade was Saturday, March 7th, so almost 2 weeks ago at this point. Supposedly the largest turnout ever, with an estimated 50,000 attendees. And it seemed like it was kind of the unofficial start of the spring season, because Maya, the little shipping container... Is it a shipping container? I guess it's just a little structure.
That's a shipping container. I'm 99% sure.
Next to Resorts, a little cocktail bar opened. Jeff from New York posted about it being open. Beer Garden posted on Facebook that they are now open daily, weather permitting. And the Irish pub is still closed.
Yeah.
So,
Good sign.
moving directly on from the St. Patrick's Day Parade. Irish pub.
Should we report the unsubstantiated rumors that we're hearing?
Yeah, so Irish pub initially posted right after New Year's that they were closed and they would be open in plenty of time for St. Patrick's Day. And well, St. Patrick's Day was Tuesday, and it is still not open. So one annoying thing that's happened out of this is probably 50 times a day, somebody will post in one of the Atlantic City groups like, oh, I'm sitting at Irish pub right now having an ice cold Guinness. And everybody just rolls their eyes because it's not funny. So I would just like to report that I am actually recording this episode from Irish pub with an ice cold Guinness. No, so the rumors are that they have some sort of sprinkler issue, like the sprinklers are not up to code or don't exist, and they have either been fined by the city or just can't pay for the sprinkler upgrade. This is the rumor that is swirling around, that has been posted multiple times. It's come to our email inbox. Every time I've seen it pop up, it's like, oh, somebody at some other bar who's in the know has said XYZ, which I would always caution to take any industry person's in the know status as very questionable. I think that's something that 500 by Midnight has said over and over again, is that dealers will always claim something like, oh,
Right.
you know, the rumor is such and such. Like, you don't know anything.
Bartenders always say they know everything.
Right. So I don't know about that. I will say,
It sounds like a plausible rumor, though.
sounds absolutely plausible. It's a very old building. I will say they have not helped themselves by posting nothing at all, even though they had said they would be open in plenty of time for St. Patrick's Day. Normally they host a huge thing the day after St. Patrick's Day called Bag Day, where everybody goes to Irish pub with a bag on their head.
I saw it happened at King's Pub this year. I saw they made some Facebook post that made it into my feed.
Oh, so then there was a bunch of outrage about that, and they did not actually do Bag Day.
Oh, it was it. Okay.
Including Ducktown Tavern just like went off on them. Ducktown Tavern not really covering themselves in glory, to use a UK soccer term. They've made some Facebook posts that I'm just like, whew. They didn't actually name King's Pub by name, but they were like, Bag Day is Irish pub only, blah, blah, blah. And it seemed unnecessary, especially when Irish pub is not open. But moving on. Irish pub, what do you think? I would have said fairly confident that they were going to reopen.
Yeah, you would think it would have been open by St. Paddy's Day if it was going to be imminent. But, I mean, we haven't seen any evidence from anyone that any work is happening there, right?
No.
So it doesn't seem great.
Even if they need, I don't know how much a sprinkler system would cost.
I bet it's pretty expensive in the big place like that.
$250,000.
I would say even more, maybe, especially if it needs to go in the hotel.
Say it's $500,000.
Okay.
How much could they get on a crowdsourced funding?
Not $500,000, I don't think.
But you don't need to get all the way there. I think they could get $100,000 easy.
Maybe.
Just hit up Kelsey Grammer. He's bartending there. Kelsey, pay for the sprinklers. It's the least you could do. So, CRDA, they should pitch in. Come on now.
CRDA should pitch in. Surely, if there's any purpose for CRDA, it would be to pitch in on something like this. But as we have talked about many times throughout the history of the show, more in the more distant past than the recent past, CRDA doesn't really do any of the things that we think they should be doing. So
I mean, the Irish pub is one of the very few, especially, say, 10 years ago, one of the very few things that people would actually leave the casinos to go to in Atlantic City.
Right. What is more iconic in Atlantic City than the Irish pub? I think nothing.
Very few things.
Knife and fork, maybe.
But while the CRDA is meant to, help
Chef
the
Bola?
development of Atlantic City, there are also a bunch of casino executives on the board of the CRDA
exactly.
who probably don't really want to help out someone who is drawing people away from the casino for several hours to go sit and have a pint of Guinness and cheap food.
I think I'm going to stick, only Knife and Fork and Chef Vola would be like on the level of Irish pub closing.
I would put Irish pub significantly above Chef Vola.
You think? Chef Vola is pretty iconic, I feel like, even though we haven't been.
Right.
We should go.
I mean, Knife and Fork has closed in the past.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yeah, obviously the casinos.
Yeah.
Like Borgata. Right, if something happened, we're more
sure.
But as far as, local institutions, yeah. I mean, Irish pub is way up there. Certainly top 3, I would say. I agree with your assessment there. Speaking of the CRDA, they have reluctantly approved plans that we mentioned previously on this podcast, which is for the Sheraton new developers to turn half the rooms at the Sheraton into senior housing. So the casinos objected, saying that it would hurt tourism, it would hurt conventions, because the Sheraton's attached to the convention center.
Does seem like not the best for conventions, but yes, go ahead.
I have thoughts. But then also the developers said that they probably won't be able to do it without some sort of state grant.
Mm-hmm.
So the CRDA did not love that, but they said that they approved it because all they were approving was zoning. They're only approving the legality or the ability of the developers to do this, not saying that they're giving their stamp of approval and think this is a great idea. One thought I have about the convention thing is that, A, there's so many other hotel rooms in the city.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a major issue. But also, there's so many other convention areas now in the city beyond just the convention center.
True, but it's still the biggest, right? And there are so
Harris
many
is
other.
massive. I don't know if
Harris is pretty big, but there's so many more hotel rooms in the city, but so few of them are connected to the convention center.
That's true. I mean, I don't love this plan, absolutely, and it's always a bad sign when it's completely reliant on some sort of state subsidies or grant, so that's not great. I would say watch this with some sort of trepidation or skepticism, I guess.
Is it like when someone gets huge plans and it's all contingent on them getting like $200 million in bonds?
Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm. Not that anyone would ever do that in AC, but...
No, it's never happened.
No.
This is really leading right into the next thing here.
Which is, as you put it, do I smell bankruptcy? Which is a callback to one of our truly most deranged comments we ever got on the website. So, I gotta love that. But
yeah, so ACX1, the former playground pier, which has attempted to turn that pier into film and television studios, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection. So presumably they just had a bunch of loans that they can't pay for.
Hard to believe that plan didn't work.
Yeah. again, keep an eye on that. We'll see where that goes. If they come out of this with restructured debt, if they just close completely, unclear. But all that we saw really was the Chapter 11 filing from last week. There's very little detail about it beyond that. So it doesn't seem great.
Doesn't seem great.
Cursed property, absolutely.
I just don't fully understand really how that plan was ever going to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Caesars needs to own it, I think.
Caesars just needs to own it. I agree. I think that in some world where Caesars wasn't maybe owned by El Dorado and wanted to do something nice with that space and maybe bring back some retail or whatever, it would be an awesome space for it. I just don't get it.
Yeah, I think Caesars only sees it as a liability. Maybe that's too harsh, but they see it as something that they can, or saw it as something that they could sell, like prime real estate property that's not as prime as maybe people think it is.
It's like the most depressing place on earth, but even when I walked through it a couple trips ago, it's still nice on the inside.
It's very nice in there, yeah.
It wouldn't take much to, like, one would think, get it
nice it
up and running again, right? Just nice it up, because like I said, it's already nice. It's not going to take that much.
And it's not like Caesars has shopping elsewhere, right? It's got the Emperor's Essentials and a gift shop.
Right.
And Time for Wine. Like, that's it.
It's got no forum shops, unlike in Vegas. Just make it a big forum shops.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of investment that I'm sure they won't do.
Yeah.
Our friend Dave said what they should do is make a casino floor out of it, overlooking the ocean. More casino space?
I don't know if they need more casino space, frankly, with the Wild Wild West already being, like a bajillion square feet of unused casino space, but...
Hear me out.
It would be nice.
Wild Wild West is now a shopping mall. And the pier becomes a casino. The pier can be called the West, even though it's the most east thing at Caesars since it's in the ocean.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, the way it runs, it's the most southeast thing at Caesars, I guess.
No, they should call it the East, and then they'd have the West.
They have the West.
And then the East would be the Asian gaming area.
Although I think the West is technically farther east than the rest of Caesars because it's north. And like I said, the way it runs, that would make it east, unfortunately.
Anyways, I don't know what's going to happen with this, but you're right. Well, I mean, the first time I went to Atlantic City...
It used to be so nice when we started going.
Right. I was blown away by that pier. I probably thought it was the nicest thing in Atlantic City.
I mean, it was for a long time.
Having not been to Borgata.
Very legitimately, I've talked about this a bunch on the podcast, but I'll do it again. All the time when I used to go in 2005, 2006, 2007, when I'd bring just a couple $100 with me and I wouldn't go to the ATM on the trips. If I ran out of money, I would just go watch the water show at the end of the pier. And it was like such a pleasant thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, if I just needed a break from gambling, I would just walk through the mall, right? I would just walk through the stores. It was so nice. Like, it used to have really high-end stores.
Yeah.
The first couple times I went to AC, I remember sort of my dream was hitting some big jackpot and then going and buying a nice watch at the Tourneau at the pier shops. Never ended up happening, but it's just so depressing. We've harped on it forever. Obviously, there's been plans from Bart Blatstein. There's been this ACX1 plan, which I think part of the optimism about the ACX1 thing was hopefully it could be done very cheaply, like very little overhead, but apparently that's not the case.
Surely, if there's any property that exists for the CRDA to pour money into, it has to be this one, right?
Yeah, unless they just see it as a lost cause. I don't know.
I mean, it seems like that's what everyone sees it as far as I can tell.
Right.
Even the plans that have come up have been incredibly half-baked, and no one's actually tried, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, and anytime something comes up or people say, oh, how can this not succeed? The locals say, well, there's no parking, which is an issue for sure.
It's fair, but get Caesars in on it, and then just park at Caesars, and if you buy something at the shops, or, eat dinner there or whatever, just get validation.
Yeah.
Or, like I said last time, if Caesars doesn't want to play ball, cut Bally's in. They'll do it, right? They're also connected to the pier shops. I mean, through Caesars, but you don't have to go outdoors from Bally's to get there.
Caesars has the walkway from the upstairs casino. It is directly connected to literally the casino floor, I mean, the upstairs casino floor at Caesars. And right now, I think that's just roped off. It's not great.
It's terrible. Truly the most depressing thing about Atlantic City, and has been for quite a few years running, I feel like.
The most depressing thing that a tourist would end up in Atlantic City, because there's certainly other parts of Atlantic City.
Sure.
You would not really end up in that are more depressing. But we got some questions. I sort of hinted at Dave's question, but I think we're going to save his, right, for the future.
That's right, for next episode. Why don't you read Paul, since I've got thoughts, unless you want me to, and you can give your thoughts.
Yeah, so we talked a few episodes ago about the worsening conditions of gambling in New Jersey. And my brother sent a little statement followed by a question. He said, the whole thing with gambling getting worse for the gambler makes me picture New Jersey saying, you're allowed to open up businesses that sell heroin. And so the businesses are like, wow, okay, here's the plan. We're going to offer really cheap steak dinners, free rooms, free drinks, and have really good heroin that will differentiate us from our competition. And then over time, they realize that the people who use heroin will use whatever the business offers, no matter how shitty it gets. Should I keep going?
Yeah, keep going.
So then he followed up a slight amendment. To put it in less drug addict terms, people who are into gambling are willing to spend much more on gambling in terms of house edge than what casinos have been, quote unquote, charging. It feels like we still haven't found the floor because gambling revenue is still going up and not down, right? So like as the casino makes the holds higher and makes the games worse, we're still going anyway, right? And gambling revenue is still going up. Is there any reason for casinos not to continue making the games worse?
No, and I do agree that games have progressively, in general, gotten worse over the last, time I've been gambling or whatever, the last 20 years. For the most part, there are a few exceptions. Not necessarily in Atlantic City, but, odds and craps have gotten better, as they mentioned on You Can Bet on That, over the last 20 years or 40 years. But yeah, for the most part, you're seeing more like 000 roulette. You're seeing more 6-5 blackjack now. Slot holds have probably gone up.
Absolutely have gone up.
You're seeing much less 9-6 jacks are better, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And have we hit the bottom? I don't think so at some point. I do agree that people who are going to the casino, I think a lot of people don't really think about that sort of thing or whatever. They want to play blackjack. Do they really care what the rules are? Not so much, and that's, frankly, it's the people that are the problem and not necessarily the casinos. Sure, they can do what they can get away with or whatever, and, I wish more people would be, not playing 6-5 blackjack. No, but I do really think that at the end of the day, what is gambling? Okay, it's addictive for a certain class of people, and at some level, for those people, it does not matter what they offer. You're going to do it because you have a compulsion to do it. But it is competing, I think, with a lot more stuff. There's just more things to do than there was 40 years ago or whatever. Couldn't watch Netflix 40 years ago, couldn't scroll Instagram, couldn't make sports bets on your phone, couldn't do whatever.
But shouldn't that mean that the gambling has to get better to attract people and they have to make more offers? Because one of the things that he doesn't mention is the offers are also getting worse. I think they're offering you less rooms and less free play and less, the casinos I think are giving back less to the player, or at least they were for a while.
I don't think that's true. I feel like my offers have been largely consistent throughout at least the time of the podcast. And they're much better than they were when I first started going, though it's just because I gamble a lot more now than I did when I was young. I mean, with the exception, it really was during the Great Recession. Atlantic City really did get hammered, and so they were quite generous.
Yeah, I think I'm comparing it to when I started going, which was in 2009, 2010. Mm-hmm. And literally, if you put $50 through a slot machine, you were getting comped weeknights. Mm-hmm. If you set foot in a casino, they were giving you pretty surprising offers, which is definitely not the case now.
The business of casinos has always been to subsidize certain parts of what they offer. It's changed throughout the years that they did more directly used to subsidize, $1.99 steak and eggs or whatever, in a way that they don't anymore, and that they see food also as a revenue source, not as something that's necessarily bringing people in.
Yeah. And alcohol.
Well, it depends on alcohol. I mean, you still certainly can get it on the casino floor, but yeah, bars, nightclubs, or whatever. I mean, I think a lot of the Vegas tripping guys, what they talked about is that at the end of the day, the casino is going to maximize their revenue per square foot. And if that means putting a club in and taking slot machines out, they're going to do it, which I do agree with.
So one of the things that you mentioned is that people who are addicted to gambling are going to gamble whatever the odds are, even if the slot holds are high. I think it's actually not the addicts. I think it's the casuals, especially in Vegas. I think it's people who are going to Vegas who don't think about these things at all because they just don't even know what makes a good game, or that 6-5 versus 3-2 blackjack is even a thing, or they don't actually know how a roulette wheel is supposed to look. They brought some money to gamble with and they're just going to play because they're in Vegas and that's what they're going to do.
I think it'd be interesting to see. I really don't know. Vegas, certainly the number is going to be much higher than Atlantic City, but how much of their revenue really is people that have zero experience gambling? They brought a couple $100, they're going to put it through the slot machine during their trip, and in no way, shape, or form are they gamblers.
Yeah, I mean, I know that the big thing that everybody talked about after the last recession was how much Vegas shifted to where the revenue was hugely in dining and drinking and entertainment and nightclubs, and gambling was sort of secondary. I mean, it's still the big draw, right? But Whereas AC was very much a gambling town and has, it's still very
Still
much
is.
revenue. Right. And so I don't know the percentages on that, but at one point it had shifted to where they were like totally I don't know if it was 80-20 or 70-30 or what, but they were like the inverse between Vegas and Atlantic City. So you'd think Atlantic City would have people who are more aware gamblers and thus would be more resistant to the worse rules.
I think they do. The rules are much better in Atlantic City than they are on the Strip. 100%.
Yeah, although you see it getting worse, and there has just been an acceptance. I mean, I agree with what you said earlier about people just sort of accepting the 6-5 blackjack and playing it anyway. I think there was a lot of outrage on all the podcasts and on the web forums way back when 6-5 started about like, don't play 6-5, you can't possibly do this. Right. And like people will just play what's convenient, unfortunately, and it was convenient.
I mean, or a lot of people, frankly, I had this with one of my friends when we went to Vegas, and he's just like, I'd much rather play $5 6-5 than $15 3-2. And I'm like, that's mathematically wrong. But...
Right. And now, especially with the table limits getting higher, you may have to go to $50 to get 3-2, right?
Right. Certainly in Maryland, a lot of times you'll have to go to 50 to get 3-2.
And perfect example of that is the video poker pay tables, right? I can't get 9-6 anywhere except for Borgata on quarters, and I'm not going to go up to, $10 a spin or whatever it takes to get full pay video poker. So I'm just willing to take the hit, which is significant, to play lower stakes.
Right. You're taking lower expected value in exchange for lower variance, right?
Right. I'm pretty much always going to make that choice. Honestly, if some casino opened $5 blackjack with horrendous house rules,
a lot of people would be there. 100%.
I would play it. Honestly, I would play it.
Famously, when we went, they had $1 blackjack at Wild Wild West with a quarter ante, which is just truly the most terrible game you could ever imagine.
Right. I mean, at that point, you're talking about like 25.5% housing head.
Right.
Because it's 25 cents every single hand you play. But I mean, if they did $5 even money blackjack, I'd probably play it. So I can't really talk because that's just the trade-off that you make. I think that's where the addict analogy falls apart, is because I really do think it's the casuals who are playing the really bad games. I think the people who are addicted are obsessed over the rules and stuff.
Right. I mean, frankly, I think that we all, as a country or whatever, have gone in the wrong direction, and the addicts aren't leaving their house because they just get their hit on their phone, which sends them push notifications to feed their addiction, et cetera, which I don't think is great, honestly, for anyone, frankly. Yeah,
that's an entire other podcast episode that I'm not sure we want to get into. But yes, I think there has to be a breaking point at some point, right? The early data is quite bad in terms of just economic impact, right?
Oh, it's awful in terms of family cohesion, in terms of domestic violence, in terms of bankruptcy. Yeah, it's bad. I mean, the data is awful for gambling on the phone.
And yet, what do you think all the ads are going to be if we watch March Madness?
It's really just shocking compared to 10 years ago even. It still was absolutely forbidden to talk about gambling or the lines on TV. Maybe not 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 100% though.
In college especially, right?
You could not do that ever. And I remember something like, I don't know, Mike Tirico or Al Michaels or someone got in trouble for making a joke at some, field goal that didn't matter at the end of the game, being like, oh, a lot of people really cared about that. Ha ha ha. And there was humongous outcry of you cannot talk about that. It's not an okay subject. And now it's just
it's literally on the ticker at the bottom of the screen.
There is no sports show that is not just about gambling, I feel like. It's crazy to me.
But that's not really what we're talking about here.
We've gotten off topic.
So the one other thing that I want to say about this is I think it's very hard to say that we have not hit a floor, which is one of his points, because you can't tell from the data. And one thing I remember years and years ago, there was a lot of talk about how slot holds are going up. And it's like a chicken or egg question of, are slot holds going up because slot play is going down and they're increasing the holds to protect that revenue? Or is play going down because slot holds are going up and people are seeing that their money doesn't last very long and so they're stopping playing slots? And I think the same is true with the bad rules. It's hard to tell. And from a short-term standpoint, if you're the manager of one of these casinos, you want to protect quarterly revenue. We're going to talk about monthly revenue, right?
Right.
And if you have to be judged on that every month or every quarter or every year, you're going to do the little tweaks that you can to protect that over the short term, even if it means some segment of the population is going to get tapped out. They're going to say, wow, I used to be able to come with $500 and it would last me the whole weekend. Now I come with $500 and I've got to go to the ATM, or I'm just out of money and I have to go watch the fountain show at the pier. And I don't think that there's really any clear way to quantify whether or not that's happening.
Yeah.
But I do think there's a tipping point and we may be at it or very, very close to it, where the rules are so bad and the casino is trying to bleed you dry as much as they possibly can.
Right.
They want to take all of your budget for that trip. They don't want to leave you wanting more. They don't want you to think, oh, I can come back because I went home with $300 of my $500. No, they want all of it, right?
Frankly, I think DraftKings exists. Like, their goal is to be like, we're going to take every single cent of disposable income and maybe even some non-disposable income that we can from every person who has the app on their phone.
Yeah, I mean, I think the casinos are starting to think of it the same way. And I mean, you see it with a lot of businesses. I mean, I know that's been the complaint about Disney too, right? Is Disney World is there for you to go once, right? They want you to go once and spend 5 figures. Mm-hmm. And if that means you don't come back, well, they got your 5 figures, right? And so I think that Vegas is treating it very similarly. I don't think that Atlantic City can afford to treat it like that.
Right. They can't.
You know, they have grannies coming on buses from senior centers who are playing slots. They need those people to come back, and that's the bread and butter. So I do think the floor is significantly higher in Atlantic City to where they would get absolutely crushed if the rules at every Atlantic City casino were really terrible. I think the outcome would be really bad.
Right.
Because gamblers go to Atlantic City. Vegas is people who are going for entertainment. There are people who are going for nightclubs. And there is that in Atlantic City, like a little bit. But,
kind of, but not really.
But the reason that so many people have Caesars Diamond status in Atlantic City is not because they're going and earning it in a day. It's because they're going 50 times and you don't need to play that much to get Diamond status if you're going 50 times a year.
I think a lot of the problem with Atlantic City, and we've talked about this on the podcast, is that in some sense in Vegas, the casinos or whoever got together and decided that we can make this a bigger place, we can make this a destination that people want to go, and for whatever reason, it just never happened in Atlantic City. Like, there was never any plans that went beyond each individual casino of how do we make this a destination that people really want to go to. I mean, I think a lot of it is, for so long, it was by far the most lucrative gambling market in the world, so... They didn't have to.
Yeah.
Right. And then when it turned pretty much instantly because it was, in the 2000s it changed, and then we had the Great Recession and it got just demolished immediately. It went from, incredibly prosperous to almost out of business pretty much.
So the attitude shift went from, why would we let anyone leave the casino? We're raking.
We need to rake as much as we can to, we have to survive.
Right. And it's like we have to, protect as much as we can and also take as much from the other casinos as we possibly can.
Right. If only there were, a government-run group that could take some money from all of the casinos and be in charge of directing that towards things to make the city more attractive as a place. That would be great, but, unfortunately, I guess we're never going to get that in any functioning way.
So beyond the snark of that, which obviously that is a huge issue and has been a huge issue and one of many, they had the similar reality, right? The reason that everything on the water was zoned to be huge mega casinos and mega resorts was because at the time when it was the number one gambling market in the country,
right.
Why would they let you build some boutique hotel or some shopping district or a restaurant when the next Borgata could be in that space? Somebody could be coming with billions of dollars of investment. And then as soon as it turned, the zoning didn't keep up. And I think the huge failure is on how long they held out, right, for that and didn't let any sort of grassroots development happen. I mean, we've talked about
they're still holding out. You still can't, how much property does the CRDA own that they're doing zero with and have done zero with for 20 years?
Right. And since there are casinos on that board, they're going to resist any sort of move to get people out of the casinos, even if that's the stuff that's going to be good for the city in the long term. But
yeah, I think everyone was just so short-sighted. The casinos were, the city was, the state of New Jersey obviously has taken a lot of money from Atlantic City throughout the years and not reinvested. And like you said, I mean, I think a lot of it is it just was so prosperous for so long, it could finance so many things. I don't want to accuse New Jersey of having a corruption problem, but insofar as it may have, certainly plenty of money went towards that as well. Yeah, I think it's just a failure at every level, just because for so long so much money was coming in, and then it so quickly switched to just needing to survive.
Yep. I mean, we've totally gone off the question of the gambling rules, but
I mean, here's the thing. I think the cheap steak dinners and stuff, those have never really, not at least for a very long time, something you would expect to see in Atlantic City or in Las Vegas beyond locals casinos. And I think locals casinos do it to get people in the door because otherwise they just wouldn't go there. So I don't know if it's exactly an appropriate thing to say because there is no Gold Coast equivalent. I mean, like Bally's maybe or Golden Nugget or something in Atlantic City.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, certainly in the time that we've been going.
And frankly, you still can get that kind of thing, I feel like. Certainly my offers are much better at Golden Nugget, Bally's, etc.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, in the time I've been going, I can't think of any of those crazy deals like a super cheap buffet or,
Right.
all that stuff had already crept up in price.
I mean, all those things, even in Vegas, were gone by the time I turned 21. Maybe they existed back in the days when it was like the Aladdin, the Stardust, etc. But yeah, by the time I came of age, it was not like that at all anymore. Other than, like I said, locals casinos.
Right. I mean, we've talked about something that costs the casinos money that they've gotten rid of is the 24-hour, always having a restaurant there for you.
Yep.
To attract the gamblers or to keep you awake and stuff like that. And that's just kind of gone too. So it's not the same as the $1.99 shrimp cocktail or that kind of stuff, but it is one of those things where they were clearly seeing that as an expense that was worth doing to get gamblers in the door, and they just don't see it as that anymore.
Where were you getting that in Vegas? Like at the Rio and the Riviera and the Gold Coast, and not in, MGM Grand or whatever?
But they would at least have the 24-hour places at those things.
Yeah, sure.
And I think the 24-hour stuff still exists in Vegas. It's just not really around in AC anymore.
Yeah, but not too many of them even in Vegas, I don't think, really. But maybe they'll have a pizza shop open 24 hours or something, but that's it.
I think a lot of them have some sort of eatery.
They have a cafe.
Like a cafe maybe. Kind of thing that's open most of the time. That's actually a sit-down place. Taza doesn't count. All right, do you want to talk about some February data?
Sure, we got some February data. And I'd say overall, the month was fairly flat from last year. Given that it's 28 days, I guess there's not too much we can say about 5 weekend months or whatever, given that's not a possibility. So it was down 0.25%.
Wait, what?
It's down 0.25%. You sounded very surprised.
You're right, it is down 0.25%. The headlines about it were like, oh, Atlantic City revenue really hurt by the weather. But, like, this isn't bad.
No, it's down 0.25%. It's totally fine. Yeah, so the biggest winner was Borgata, up 7.75%. Bally's was up 6.5%. And Ocean was up almost 9.5%. So they're big winners. The big loser was Hard Rock, down 14%, more or less. And Harrah's down 8.5%. So, I mean, it's pretty flat month. I don't have too much to say. I mean, Hard Rock obviously had a pretty bad / unlucky month. Yeah,
I mean, pretty surprising to only be down that much with another big snowstorm, more bad weather. Borgata with a nice rebound after being down 6% in January. They're up 7.7%, still crushing it. Ocean being up 9% and Hard Rock being down 14% means that there's only a $500,000 gap between the two, which is kind of crazy, but, a lot had to happen for that for the gap to close that much. A weird one, Caesars and Bally's back-to-back months of gains over the previous year.
Huge gains.
Yeah, I mean, not huge gains, but I certainly wouldn't have bet on their trajectory to be positive. I mean, Bally's was still under $10 million, so I don't know how positive you can take the gains when they're still posting sub $10 million months. Resorts and Golden Nugget were also both down, but they avoided going under $10 million, so that's fine. It's a very neutral month, I think, as a whole.
Yep. Don't have too much to say about it. Yeah, I agree. Very neutral.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we got through January and February of just awful weather, and hopefully...
Yeah, the weather was really bad in both those months, so, frankly, the fact that they were neutral is a good sign for both those months.
I agree completely. I take this as a positive, and I think that going into March, where you had the St. Patrick's Day parade that apparently had huge attendance, I'm looking forward to seeing what happens in the coming months, and hopefully we get springtime-like weather, and we'll all be sitting at the beer garden talking about how, Atlantic City's made so much money and they've decided they can make the gambling rules even worse because they're just making so much money.
When are we going to be sitting at the beer garden? What day?
Late April, early May.
Okay. April, 25th, 26th, 19th, 27th?
I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you guys very much for listening. If you want to reach out to us or any of our other listeners, you can do so at our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/DoForAWin. Find all of our great content at DoForAWin.com. Reach out to Craig on Twitter at DoForWin, or me and Kyle Askin, and send Craig questions at DoForWin@gmail.com, and we will read them on air. And we need questions because we're going to record again next week because we've both got some stuff coming up. So we need to get another episode in the hopper. So we would love to get your questions so we have stuff to talk about. It's going to be funny, though, when you post this after we record next time, so my complaining about needing questions will be for nothing.
That's true. That's a good point. I'm not going to post the next 2 episodes on the same day while you're away.
It should. That would be good.
275. It's not a very round number.
Has Ohio State lost yet? Let's see what's going on. They were losing by 100. So.
Oh, it's 58-57 with 2:38 left.
Oh, shit.
This is going to be the most timely content for the podcast. So.
We're back, baby. Yeah, when it gets posted, after the champion's crowned.
Yeah, sounds good.
Indeed. All right. Thank you guys very much for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Did you see who my referrals were for the pool?
No, I didn't look at the referrals.
Oh, I was referred by Marty Small, Siren, and Glenn Straub for my 2 brackets.